how do you see the future of AI taking us in the coding world and product, and like how do you navigate that world?
I think AI is an immense tool. I use ChatGPT quite a bit for my personal life, for planning when I go to the gym, planning my meal planning. People find it better to use an AI than a real human for therapy, which is an insane topic to even think about. You would think that therapy would be one of the more human things that that's never going to be replaced by AI, but it's one of the first that's getting replaced pretty quickly.
All right, hello guys. Today we have Daniel Elizondo, a LinkedIn connection and software engineer at Microsoft.
Hello, welcome. Happy to be here.
Amazing, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good so far. Vancouver, the weather's getting better every day. Today's a little bit rainy, but looking forward to some good summer days.
Yeah, honestly, in Vancouver, when the sun comes out, everyone's happy and excited.
Oh, it's beautiful. It makes it worth the months of winter and gloominess that you get to hear. But yeah, love the summer here, so I'm excited for it.
Amazing. Many of our listeners are fascinated by unconventional career paths. Could you walk us through your professional journey and the pivotal moments that shaped your career trajectory?
Yeah, of course, I'll be happy to. So I studied at UBC at Okanagan, so not in Vancouver. And I did a degree in computer science with a minor in economics. I'd say my at least academic path was a little bit unconventional, as I wasn't I wasn't the most studious student because I was very involved on campus. And by that, I mean I was involved in student clubs, associations. I ran the Latin American student organization in my campus. I co-founded the Hackathon in the UBC Okanagan. I was a vice president of the Computer Science Course Union. So I was doing a lot of stuff on campus because I just really loved involvement, meeting people, growing stuff, planning events, and seeing them come into fruition was something that truly kind of grasped my passion more than straight up academics. And that geared me up pretty well. A little bit like you said, unconventional kind of learnings, but you still learn a lot from doing that sort of stuff. Even meeting people, how to act, and connections and networking is huge in those things. And it's also just fun, being able to be part of a community, seeing it grow. You hear feedback from people who are really appreciative of the things you're able to do, because it was all on the side, right? For example, the hackathon in UBC Okanagan is still going, BC Hacks. I think they're in their 5th or 6th year now they're doing it. So super happy to see that it has longevity. It's growing bigger every year. I hear from students when I go back. If I ask them oh, you're participating in a hackathon. I'm oh yeah, I loved it. I was able to get an internship through it. So it's super nice to be able to hear the impact that you're able to do through just involvement, simple involvement, just being able to raise your hand whenever somebody asks if you want to get involved. I also ran for a student government a couple of times. Didn't actually get the thing, but it was still nice campaigning, getting to know people, what people were angry about, what people were passionate about. So being just involved was great. And then going into my graduation and going into the real world, I learned that actually that involvement, that community events that I would plan actually gave me a lot of skills that you don't normally learn in school. So going into my career, I briefly got involved with a fintech. I'm from Mexico, Monterrey. Briefly got involved with a fintech over there, just a small startup, just for a couple months while I was looking for a job here in Canada. And yeah, quickly I learned that ComSci, they prepare you a little bit, they teach you how to code, the data structures and databases, but as soon as you're out in the real world, not that none of it applies, but there's just so much to learn, and there's so much new things that you just constantly have to be learning. So the academia can only prepare you so far, but the real world skills networking and holding meetings and setting goals and objectives and planning and meeting those goals was something that I didn't learn as much in school, but through those events and involvement that I would do. So later on, I would apply to Microsoft. A big thing that Microsoft puts forward is more their personality. Apart from technical aspects, there's a lot of personality that goes into the interview process. So I feel being able to talk about how I was able to get involved and how I was passionate about community and engagement like that, I think it put me in a really good light. And then once I got into Microsoft here in Vancouver, it was right out of the pandemic. My 3rd month at Microsoft was when they reopened the office. So I was eager to meet people. I was eager to get involved with not only my team and my product, but just the people around in Microsoft Vancouver. And I've been able to meet tons and tons of people. I actually founded the OLA chapter of Microsoft here in Vancouver. OLA is an ERG, an employee resource group that they have chapters all over the world. But OLA is the Hispanic and Latinx one. So I was able to start to build a community of like more Hispanic and Latinx coworkers, so we can meet each other. There's a lot of people who come here right out of university from Colombia and Brazil and Argentina. So it's really nice to have a place and like give some sort of community to people who come in fresh into Vancouver, who don't know the country, don't know the city, and they can immediately engage with the community. So apart from like working on my project and with my team, I get to do that on the side, just out of passion, and that's opened many doors. Met a lot of super cool people. So yeah, no, I think apart from doing a lot of studying and that, like just being involved with your community and helping people out is just that's a huge impact on not just yourself, but people around you, which ultimately leads back to yourself.
Well, there is a lot to unpack there, but that's amazing. First thing I want to ask is, how do you even start to approach creating BC hacks or a hackathon in university?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question because when we started, we had no idea. This was very much like it was between me and two fellow students who actually they approached me once like they got the groundwork going. And it was just out of passion. It was just asking questions, reaching out to people, learning what you can online. We got a lot of help from a hackathon organization, a nonprofit hackathon organization that helps organize hackathons all over the US and Canada. We were able to get their help, which we had to apply and like make a plan and show like the potential and the amount of students and why it was important to make a hackathon in UBC Okanagan. So we were able to get some help from them. And it was just a lot of like, it was particularly hard because one big thing with hackathons is sponsors. How do you get a sponsor if you have no credibility? Because it's never been done before. Because whenever we cold called someone, it's like, oh, great. Like, tell me about previous years. And like, there's no previous years. Like, so it's really hard to get that credibility, but through just having, knowing your stuff, having proper like paperwork and like slideshows and just having able to give material to people like, hey, this is the first time we're doing it, but we're a passionate group of students who want to get this done. This is how many people we expect to be signed up. We did a survey. Like this is about how much engagement we've been looking at. So we're able to show a lot of passion, and just through that, we're able to get a lot of confidence from sponsors. We're able to get Cisco. We're able to get some local companies. We're able to get later on through the success, Microsoft and a few other companies were able to help out the hackathon. So it was just people being passionate, just doing whatever you could to make it happen. It was very much a ragtag group of people, and eventually it was an extremely fun experience. Chaotic in every sense, and like it's a hackathon. It's 24 hours. We had people, you had to be awake at 5 a.m. and running for coffee because we run out and brewing more. So it was very chaotic, but I loved every second of it.
Yeah, those experiences in especially the university years really resonate and stick with you for the rest of your life, I believe.
For sure. 100%. Like that's like I mentioned, like the things you learn through making those events and community engagement are life skills that you get as soon as you kind of put your raise your hand and get involved.
You mentioned you were involved in a startup back in Mexico.
Yeah, it was super briefly, like a really small startup. But I don't know if you had like a follow-up.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, what's maybe the most like standout difference between the environment of work there and here, if you had to say?
Well, it's completely just opposite sides of the spectrum. The startup was very bare bones. Like we were just starting to get we did very little coding. Like I did the website. We started planning on the architecture of what we need to do and just planning that. So it was extremely just the very, very start of the startup, which is a really cool place to be because you're able to make every single decision, right? Like what stack are you going to be using? How is it going to be working? How is it going to be the UI? Is it going to be server side, client side? So you get to make a lot of big decisions pretty quick. And I was first out of university, so that was a bit of like a large learning curve for me. And then on the other side, it's at Microsoft, it's such a huge company and things, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of compliance, there's a lot of, the code base is already done. When I first joined, So I work in the Photos app in Microsoft. So this is the app that gets installed in Windows. Whenever you double click an image, that editor that pops up and you're able to browse your photos. There's also a gallery, an editor, and that sort of stuff. But when I first joined, I was in the old Photos app, which is now called Photos Legacy, which is an immense code base that's been built upon by, I think it was like 3 or 4 different teams that just been passed through. Just a behemoth of a code base that, I just got dropped in it and be like, hey, like start fixing some bugs, ask any questions you want. Like they were extremely supportive, but it was very much hit the ground running. It's written a lot of like C#, some C++, and XAML. C# and XAML I wasn't really familiar with, so it was also like starting to learn the language and the framework and .NET and all these things. So on one side you got the startup, which is like big decisions coming quick, like immediate action and immediate results, versus like a very much slower, bureaucratic, but much more concrete code base and environment that you see at a larger company. So it's just completely opposite ends of the spectrum. They both have their pros and cons, but it was extremely different for sure.
So let's dive into the Microsoft world.
Of course.
Sort of, if you can touch on how's the environment there, and how do they build the community aspect that sort of enables the communication between parties and all sorts of things.
Microsoft is humongous, right? I think it has like something like 220,000 employees. I think like something like 50-60% are in the product area. So like making actually coding, and 40% is like HR and sales and marketing and this sort of stuff. So the rough numbers. So, and Microsoft has I don't even know how many different services and products and R&D, and so it's a behemoth of a company. So the community part is extremely important. We often work with partners in different teams. It can be chaotic. It takes a really good PM to be able to navigate that. But coming into Microsoft almost straight out of university, it was a really cool experience being able to join a team. I joined a really cool team. Like Photos is an awesome product that used by millions and millions and millions of people. So it was a bit intimidating for sure, but at least the team I joined was extremely helpful and welcoming, and answering any questions. At least like at first I was a bit timid in like approaching a senior engineer or a principal engineer with a question that I thought I could maybe figure out, but I would spend 2, 3, 4 hours trying to figure out a small issue, when a 5-10 minute talk with a senior principal engineer would have like put me along. But at first I was a bit intimidated because these are people who've been in the industry for 20, 30 years. But soon enough you just get a super helpful group of people that are eager to help and like let you grow. So extremely collaborative, and kind of lets you build yourself along with them. And then in terms of partners, it's just a matter of just a lot of communication, coordination. As an engineer, I don't do too much on that on my own. Again, it's kind of more of a PM job, like product manager job. But yeah, it's just kind of making a lot of promises, staying true to your word, trying to, resolve the issues. And whenever there's, sometimes we get messaged by a team that there's an issue with their app that's affecting them, or the other way around. So just trying to be the most helpful and supportive partner as possible. It's kind of like it's the golden rule, treat others like you want to be treated. You want to have good partners. You have to be a good partner in those teams. Yeah, no, it's been a super cool experience being able to be a part of the particular product that I'm in, and just Microsoft in general.
The question that arises is, on a day-to-day basis, how does your schedule look like? Like, do you guys have, daily meetings at 9 a.m. or is there like a certain structure you follow?
So like Microsoft in general is pretty laid back when it comes to like strict schedules. If you want to start a little bit later and work later, that works. You can talk to your manager and say that you want to work at different type of like hours if you want to. So they're extremely like helpful in that sense. But yeah, there's because of the amount of collaboration and scheduling and the partners and meetings, there is a lot of rigidness in that sense, where like there's a lot of deadlines. Maybe some partner team or compliance team tells you that you need to have this done by this date. So there's rigidness in that way. We do have a stand up every day at 10 a.m. So it's at least not 9 a.m. So we do have like that kind of cadence of the daily meeting. And there's like tons of different like weekly meetings that we have to do. So there's a lot of coordination that happens just by the nature the size of what the product is and like the amount of partners and, things that we have to meet. So it's a bit of both. So there's leniency in your personal thing, but when it comes to your teams related stuff, definitely a little bit of rigidness.
How does the hierarchical structure look like? Like, is there, for example, 7, 8 juniors, and then we have a senior, and then there's 7, 8 seniors, and then, so on?
It really depends per team. Some teams that's true. Some of the teams it's not as maybe like maybe not as much. In my team, there's more seniors than juniors. It's a small team that has a lot of demands from again partners and that sort of stuff. So it's a small team that it's a small but mighty team. So at least in my case, yeah, there's only only a couple of juniors, not that many software engineer twos, and then we have most of our teammates are senior and principal level engineers. But I know through coworkers that yes, like you said, like other teams have more juniors and more software engineer twos than seniors and principals. A lot of time the principals and seniors do a lot of the architecture and just general planning, while software engineer ones and twos get to do the actual coding and like the nitty gritty stuff. So it just really depends per team. It's such a large company, and so when you talk about hierarchy, it's, you got Satya Nadella at the top, and, it kind of splits down in this kind of humongous tree. So, some areas, like I am part of the experiences and devices team under Rajesh Jha. The way that he leads his organization might be a little bit different than, but like the gaming sector might be work a little bit different than the experience and devices. So the culture changes quite a bit between just general areas. So it's just really hard to say.
No, I definitely understand. Do you have maybe regular travels to the United States? And if you can touch on, how does the campus look like and sort of feel?
Yeah. I don't travel that much to the US because I joined after COVID. And after COVID, especially with Teams, Microsoft, major Microsoft products, we're able to do everything remotely. Microsoft is extremely remote forward. So there's rarely a reason to go to the US. That being said, I have gone to US and I have gone to the campus. And there's a sense of... The Vancouver campus is beautiful. It's in downtown, right in Robson Square. Beautiful, kind of the interior design is really well done. It's a super cool office. Love it there. But it's only the one office. I think it fits something like 700, 800 desks or something, which is a lot, but nothing compared to Redmond. If you go there, there's a sense of just how big what you're a part of is. It's this ginormous company, again, with 220,000 employees. It really kind of sense of like, wow, I'm part of something huge. You see, if you walk through the halls, there's memorabilia. There's like, a Halo, like a Master Chief statue of some areas, or there's like, they have some display cases with like old computers, and it kind of gives you a better sense of like a history. Microsoft just celebrated their 50th year. So, just going through that kind of history of Microsoft and software and computing, it's just massive. It's a super cool experience to go to the Redmond campus. It's just, you're not able to see it all in its entirety. There's a lot of pines. It's really kind of nature. But, as soon as you're in and you see that the roads are named Microsoft Way, and this, like you're not only like, it's not just one building, it's a whole community of buildings, a whole campus that's Microsoft, and it's just cool to be a part of something that big.
Why did you choose Microsoft? Maybe the answer is sort of you interviewed and they accepted, or whatever the case is. But can you touch on like the other FAANG companies and your experience maybe with?
Yeah. I chose Microsoft. That was actually the only FAANG company I applied to. I really aligned with their mission and vision. From everything I read, I seem to be just more inclined to be part of that community than any other FAANG, a major tech company. Microsoft really puts forward, again, like community engagement, a lot of like self-growth. And they're not as hard on people as some other FAANG companies. Like I hear a lot from things like Amazon and Google, who could be a lot harder on you. Like there's a lot more demanding to you. They do pay a little bit more. So, you're kind of choosing like, do you want to have a little bit of a worse work-life balance but get paid a little bit more, or do you want to prioritize your own mental health a little bit more and get paid a little bit less? I went for Microsoft, which is the latter. They have a lot of like resources for employees. They have a lot of, again, like I'm part of the employee resource group OLA, so the fact that they have that and they really support that kind of growth. There's a lot of mental health resources, a lot of personal resources. So it's a very much like a much more of an employee forward company than from what I've heard other fan companies. I haven't worked in any other fan company, but at least from what I've heard, like it's a little bit harder. I've heard people get burnt out pretty easily of like Amazon, even people who go into gaming. It's a lot of people get burnt out after just a few years. So it really depends on the type of person. If you're the person who's really kind of hard, you're a hard worker and you're able to put long hours and maybe weekends, and absolutely like a different fan would be a better fit. But if you're looking for a bit of a balance, Microsoft is a perfect place to be.
So you've been mentioning Ola. Can you dive into, did you start it from scratch yourself, or how do you even go about creating sort of like a community in such a big company?
It's a pretty simple story. So Ola, again, it's an employee resource group for Hispanic and Latinx employees. It's already a big thing in the US, and a lot of the US cities have big chapters. The year I joined was the same year that the Ola Canada got created by some folks over in Toronto. And they were like hosting like a couple events over there. They had like a couple virtual events, like kind of, we call them cafecitos, where it's just, on Friday mornings, you kind of hop on Teams, you drink coffee and like chat with people and get to like network and meet people. Through those cafecitos, I was able to meet the leaders and the people who had created this Ola Canada. And they were doing this in-person events in the Toronto office and the Montreal office. And so there's two sides of Microsoft. There's the product side and the non-product side. So like, again, like sales, marketing, HR, and then you have like engineers, product designers, PMs, and all that sort of stuff. So there's two sides. The Toronto office is very much a more like marketing sales side, versus the Vancouver is a lot more engineering. So there's a little bit of a divide. And there's not that much communication or collaboration between the two. But through the employee resource group, I was to like kind of bridge that connection. So when I told him, one of the cafecitos, I told him, hey, like I would love to be able to organize an event like you guys do in Toronto over in Vancouver. Like I know there's a big community here. At that time, I didn't have a number. But I was like, hey, like I hear Spanish on the halls every so often. I have a couple friends who are Hispanic. Like I would love to be able to kind of bring the community together. Like can I get some budget to just order some pizzas, go to a meeting room and just kind of get as many people to go there, because free food is what brings everybody together nowadays. So they said like, yeah, absolutely, we would love for you to do that. So they gave me a bit of budget. I ordered some pizzas. I told people to tell more people, like whoever like they knew who would be interested in that ERG. We had like something like 30-40 people show up, something like that. Met a lot of people. Immediately, some people came up to me like, "Hey, Daniel, like I love what you're doing. This is awesome. I didn't know there was a Latin American community here in the Vancouver office. I work from home and I never come to the office, so I haven't met too many people. It's got a few different stories, and a handful of people were like, "Hey, if you ever want to do something else, let me know. I'd be happy to help." I'm like, sweet, perfect. I found people who are passionate about what I'm passionate about, who also want to build a community. So then it's just building a small team. Going back to Toronto, talking back to the people in Toronto, be like, hey, great success. Here's some pictures of the people who came. I would love more budget in the coming years, or coming quarters, to be able to continue and grow and nurture this community. And they were more than happy to kind of help me achieve those goals. So it was just kind of, again, like just raising your hand, reaching out, being like, oh, this is a thing that's not here. How can I make it come here? It was like, and 9 out of 10 times, people are eager to help you reach that sort of those goals.
Amazing. That's very nice. How does your setup look like? So as a product guy in Microsoft, I'm sure you have maybe like a dual monitor, you have cursor, or what sort of platforms do you use, and how has AI changed the way you approach your work?
Yeah. I have 3 monitors. I was able to get a third one with when we're like moving things around. And now I just cannot live without it. It's an addiction. Monitors are an addiction. My setup is very much, so we work with a lot of Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Like I use it both for different reasons. Mostly in Visual Studio. There's like the GitHub Copilot integrated to it. There's the one I prefer a little bit more in Visual Studio Code. The agent, who is incredible at what it does. It's something scary at how good it is. So we use those kind of two IDEs to just complete our work. There's also a lot of DevOps that I get to work in. So that's, Azure related stuff, pipelines, working with YAML files. And that's done mostly through just an online editor in Azure DevOps. AI has impacted a lot. Microsoft is a very extremely AI forward company, not only in us putting AI into the product, but using AI in our daily lives. Right when, like, within the first few months of ChatGPT coming out and like this kind of whole AI hype coming into the world, back then our CVP Chris Bradley literally told everyone, "Hey, take 1 week, drop what you're doing this whole week, mess around with AI, learn how it works, learn how to use it, learn how to code with it, like make small projects, like do whatever you want, just get warmed up to AI for this 1 week." We called it AI week. So extremely AI forward, and like learn how to, the benefits, pros and cons. And back then it was much worse than it is now. It was incredible, but now it's just to such a higher degree. So so from the start, Microsoft's just been like, use AI if you can. And yeah, now day to day, I use it all the time for not only for coding, but just general tasks, summarizing things like emails, PowerPoints, Excels, doing stuff. Not to plug Copilot, but I do use Copilot for quite a few things, just to make my life easier on pretty much any task.
So the question that arises is, why Copilot from so many solutions? Have you found maybe it's better at what it does, or maybe it's more comprehensive?
I haven't tried the other competitors as much. I use Copilot a lot because I work at Microsoft, so might as well. But also it's already integrated with all the systems that I use. Because I work at Microsoft, I use Outlook, I use Word, I use Excel, I use PowerPoint. We also get a Copilot for Microsoft Edge. It's in my file system. It does a bunch of stuff. So it's just already just all bundled in to wherever I want. So I don't have to like switch AIs. Look, I'm going to use Cursor for this. I'm going to use ChatGPT for that. I'm going to use blah, blah, blah for this. It's just kind of one all-encompassing just kind of solution. So that's pretty neat. And it's already kind of pre-installed, integrated in my systems, and we're encouraged to use it somewhat. So it's just kind of a sense of just, might as well. It's what's there. It's what works, Might as well get intimate with it, get to know how it works a little bit better. And and there's new features coming out all the time. A very big AI push in Microsoft. So it's just a cool product. It does what it needs to.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
If it's like everywhere, then
yeah, why not, right?
The question that I have is, how do you see the future of sort of AI taking us in the coding world and product, and what maybe is the outlook of Microsoft on this? Like, how do you navigate that world?
It's impossible to say what's going to be happening in 5 years. Whenever there's an AMA in Microsoft, when we have from corporate leaders to researchers and scientists make AMAs, often people say like, I don't know, like I'm an expert in the subject, and like people can put their what they think is going to happen, but nobody knows for sure. So it's hard to see like 5-10 years down the line, anything could happen. It's AI is advancing at such a quick pace. The world is changing in such a quick pace that it's just so hard to say where it's going to be. Personally, I think I'm AI forward. I think AI is an immense tool who simplifies so many tasks and also just makes a person, multiple times more productive in almost any sense. Through it's your daily planning. Like I use ChatGPT quite a bit for my personal life, for planning when I go to the gym, planning my meal planning, general questions, and just whenever I have something that I'm more curious about, instead of like looking stuff up and reading Wikipedia, I can have a conversation with ChatGPT, which just seems like a much more, at least personally, a better way to learn about a subject. Sure, there's hallucinations and might be the most accurate compared to Wikipedia, but just such a great tool, just a great interface between this immense well of knowledge to be able to just have a natural conversation with it. People are using it nowadays as therapists. People find it better to use an AI than a real human for therapy, which is an insane topic to even think about. You would think that therapy would be one of the more human things that that's never going to be replaced by AI, but it's one of the first that's getting like replaced pretty quickly. I mean, therapists are expensive and ChatGPT not as much. But from what I've read is that people, whenever you're talking to a person, people kind of hold back a little bit because it is a human that makes judgment, even though that they're trying not to, and maybe they don't express it, but they're making some sort of judgment. It's hard to really open up when you're talking to a human. When you're talking to an AI, it's you can be as honest as you want, and there's little to no judgment. It's just an AI. What it's gonna be thinking about. It's gonna help you through whatever you ask it to help it through. Which is, I think, one of the most mind-boggling developments in the past few months is like all these articles coming out of people saying like, yeah, no, like an AI therapist helped me through this and that, or like depression, or you name it. So I think AI is going to come out swinging, and it already is. It's going to take over. It's not going to take. People say it's going to take over jobs, and yeah, but it's more people who know how to use AI are going to take over the jobs of people who don't. So if you don't know how to use an AI, then get familiar with it, start mucking around with it, make small projects, try to make an effort to go out of your way to, instead of planning a thing by yourself, try to do it with an AI. If you're making a meal plan, try to use it with an AI. If you're trying to plan a trip, try using an AI, or making an event, again, like just try using an AI, because it's only get like it's a lot of people say today's the worst day that AI is ever gonna be coming forward, because every day it just gets better and better and better. It's only been 2 years since like ChatGPT really came out. Dude, what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20? What happens when I'm in 80? What world is that going to be? So yeah, I think is just leaning into it. It's an insanely productive and insanely just complete tool already that I'm just super, super excited to see where it's going to go over the next 5-10 years.
I'm reminded of the quote, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. Spider-Man quote, yeah.
Yeah. And so with that being said, the companies and the giants that are owning and sort of controlling the flow of knowledge coming through these AIs, how should that be regulated? Because they have great power that basically more than half of the knowledge is coming through them.
Yeah.
So how should sort of that space be navigated in the world? What do you think about that?
I think absolutely should be regulated. I mean, to what degree is hard to say. And legislation is famously slow, so it's going to be hard for legislation to really keep up. And AI is such a broad tool that's going to be hard to even regulate in any way, because there's going to be tons of loopholes. So it's going to be hard, but it is, like you said, it's a great power. There's a massive arms race happening between big tech companies, world governments, trying to get their hands on this kind of immense new power that's being slowly unlocked. It's hard to say. I feel like I'm not really the person to say truly how it should be regulated. I'm not a lawyer in any sense. I'm just an engineer, but it definitely looks like you said, it's a great power. There needs to be a responsibility behind it. Microsoft, at least, is being, at least from what I see, really responsible. They made us take a few like courses on responsible. They call it RAI, responsible AI. And there's tons and tons of compliance, which sometimes can be a bit of a headache, but I completely understand the necessity of it. Of whenever we're using AI in a product, to just be really comprehensive, go through all the steps to make sure that it is a good tool that's going to be used for good things, and kind of limit the damage that's able to do. Because when you're generating images, altering images, generating text, it can easily be used for harmful means. And at least from what I see in Microsoft, there's a great effort to make sure that doesn't happen. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be, a back and forth between just new AIs and new loopholes and, legislation coming in. So in legislation, like I said, it's slow. So I really hope that the big companies are the ones that moderate themselves. Because, like I said, it's only been a few years of AI, and there's a few decades in front of us with it. So, yeah, it's important to be responsible.
Can you maybe touch on the compliance aspect that you mentioned that you have to follow if there's AI in your code base, or are you able to touch on that?
Yeah, like I won't be able to say too much. Just the general sense that we take it pretty seriously, and there's a lot of things that we go through to make sure that it is applied correctly, it's used correctly, and there's proper safety measures behind it so that, it cannot be used for malicious means. Um, and it's not just one person. It's like a whole team effort, and we work with different partners to make sure that the AI models that we put into the products are just fine tuned to a way that we feel is safe for consumers and safe for just the product in general. Yeah, again, just a lot of effort behind it. I don't know how much I'm able to say, just that people take it pretty seriously.
Yeah, that's fair. I want to touch on the quantum chip that Microsoft in the past, I think, month came out
Yeah, a
with.
month or so. I think 2 months maybe, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, million plus qubits, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you touch on that?
I'm no expert. I haven't delved too deep into quantum computing. I'm extremely eager for it to be further developed and used for maybe not consumer but enterprise solutions. Because there's a lot of promise when it comes to quantum computing. People are afraid that it's the end of encryption, it's the end of privacy, it's the end of security. So there's a lot of speculation and a lot of kind of people scared about what it truly means that having again, maybe not consumer but enterprise level quantum computing solution. So yeah, I don't feel comfortable really kind of sharing too much because it's definitely not an area of my expertise. But I'm just extremely just anticipating what's just going to happen within the next few years because it's an incredible achievement that Microsoft was able to produce that.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And with the rate that we're going, are you personally scared of AI getting out of hand and sort of, there's this analogy that if there's an anthill and we're trying to build a road, we don't hate those ants, but they're just in the way. So they will be demolished while we do our path. So would you have that scarcity that when we put these AIs into robots and robots, getting better at an insane rate? So what will happen really?
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. It's again super hard to even look 2-3 years in the future. Things are moving and evolving too fast. I was it a year or so ago. I read Isaac Asimov's I, Robot. Fantastic book. Isaac Asimov is one of my favorite authors. The movie doesn't really do justice to what the book is, but for one, it's incredible what Isaac Asimov was able to think about. I think it was written in the 50s, 60s, so before modern computing, before personal computing. He was already envisioning this world of robotics and kind of the impact that would have on society. And so there's one thing that's pretty interesting is the dependence that tends to happen when it comes to robots. Because if they do come in a general use robot and even just specific use robots, it's gonna be using AI, which are gonna be connected to servers, which are gonna be connected to systems, which are gonna be extremely smart and have goals. And once AI starts talking to AI, which it's gonna snowball a little bit. Am I scared? Maybe, depends on who or the people leading, kind of leading the front. I hope that there's going to be safeguards and, responsible AI out of work. But yeah, it's just hard to tell. Isaac Asimov writes quite a few little stories on things going wrong with robots and the potential dangers of it. So yeah, it's a little bit alarming, and then, there's 1,000 sci-fi movies about AI going crazy and robots attack, Terminator and, so yeah, I feel like there's a lot of speculation on AI going rogue and going evil, which sure could happen, who might say that it won't, but also I just believe that there's going to be a lot of safeguards around it that's just going to be able to kind of hold it back, hopefully. I don't know.
Inshallah.
Just I don't know. That's all I can say.
Virtual reality commands over 301,000 monthly searches globally, yet mass adoption faces hurdles. What breakthrough applications do you believe will finally push VR into mainstream use?
I'm a big VR fan. I love VR. I haven't used it as of late, but for a while I was using it for exercise. There's quite a few. I have an Oculus Quest, or MetaQuest, I think it's called now. And yeah, would use it for exercise. I live in an apartment in downtown, so and the gyms are always so full around downtown. So a lot of times I would rather just do like some cardio, some body weight exercises with the help of VR. And then more recently, I've been learning the piano with VR. There's a super cool app that I'm so happy that I was able to find called Piano Vision. That basically you put on your headset, and you have to use one of the newer VRs that have like the pass through feature. And it's kind of like Guitar Hero in the sense that notes fall, and then you play the notes as they come on your real world piano. So I've been learning the piano that way. So and it's a super super cool and super fun way to learn the piano because it really gamifies it too. You know, there's high scores and there's different ways you can do it, and like an extremely in depth just a little app. It's like playing a game, but you're learning piano. So it's man, it's a lot of fun. So I'm super super into well, not super duper, but like, you know, I'm in VR. I got my own headset. I'm a big supporter of it. I think the hurdles is that it's a little bit cumbersome to be one wearing a headset. You know, you sweat a little bit. It's kind of just annoying. It's not the best. You have to be kind of in the mindset of getting into it, not because like your phone or your laptop or desktop or TV. It's a thing you can just turn on and, you know, versus VR, it's kind of like it's an active thing. You cannot sit on the couch and, well, you can sit on the couch and like watch TV on VR, but a lot of VR is very active. So you have to be in like more of a, you know, active mood to do that. So I feel like that's one of the hurdles. Um, I think it's never gonna really be the biggest thing for consumers. I think there's a large hurdle with people that just it's not as close to it's still VR, so it's like, you know, a lot of people get disoriented, a little bit people get nauseous. So it's just a little bit hard to for like it to be widely consumed. I don't know what needs to happen. You know, maybe I think there's a lot of use academically and on enterprise level. You know, a lot of companies can use VR to visualize stuff. To, you know, I know there's quite a few architects who use VR to do a walkthrough of if the building's not built yet, but you can walk through the building if you want to, or the unit you're gonna buy that's being built in 5 years or whatever. You can put on VR and walk through the building. So you go, oh, quite like the layout. You know, it's way better than, you know, seeing it on paper or on your PC. So there's a lot of applications. White consumer, maybe not, but I don't know. I think there's some cool stuff. Like right now, learning the piano has been a blast. You know, I tried taking piano lessons and I just never really got into it. But with this, I see myself being eager to be like, oh man, I'm excited to go play some piano later, which I never would have thought was going to be something I would say. So yeah, there's definitely a future. It's gonna be hard for it to really go into the mainstream, but it's still a pretty big niche, I call. You know, kind of where, you know, VR can really sit and thrive.
That's actually crazy that you bring up the piano thing. I've never thought of it, but that's a great use.
Super great use. I mean, it's gamified, so there's high scores, and like sometimes if the piece is too hard, you can slow it down. So I'm gonna play at a 50% speed, or you can download. It does it through MIDI files, so you can download a MIDI file through on the internet and play whatever song. Like, oh, I really want to learn this song specifically. Maybe doesn't come preloaded, but you can load it up and just learn how to play it, which is just super neat. I've been having lots of fun with it. Sometimes I'll play for over an hour, and like my headset battery runs out. I'm like, oh wow, like I played through the played piano through the entire battery of my headset. So I feel like, yes, there's certain niches that are just incredible applications of VR. I think piano has been my favorite one so far.
That's amazing. Well, we have a piano here. We'll put your skills to the test.
I need my headset. I need my headset.
Young professionals often struggle with building effective teams. What qualities do you prioritize when bringing new talent into an organization?
Well, it's hard for me to say. You know, I haven't been the one hiring my team or, you know, getting people to join my team at any point so far. But from what I see, like a good team working is, apart from having like skilled engineers and, you know, a good mix between designers, engineers, and product managers. It's just having a good, just kind of culture around it. You know, people have to be happy working together to work well together. Sometimes a little bit of adversary and back and forth could be beneficial for a team. But and I think that's one thing that Microsoft does pretty good is just put a big emphasis on culture, be making sure that you're going to be a team player. You know, it's It sometimes could be more damaging having a toxic coworker who could be the best engineer in the world, but if they don't collaborate and do things on their own, it could be more damaging towards a product to have someone like that than someone who's not as skilled, but is good at communicating, good at collaborating, working together, and finding solutions that everybody's happy with. So there's a balance in that. Obviously, having some sort of structure of having more experienced people trying to help people who are not experienced. So you need to have a little bit of diversity in a team in that sense. If you have only people fresh out of university, you're gonna make mistakes that someone who's been in the industry for 10 years would know not to make. So you need a diversity there as well. So yeah, it's really not my area of expertise, I'd say, but yeah, just like it's having diverse teams in any sense is always a positive, and just having good collaboration, good communication is absolutely key to have a successful team.
What are your tips for people maybe sort of in university or just graduated that their dream is to work at a FAANG company or maybe Microsoft one day? What would you suggest and recommend to them to do? Is grades more important, or obviously is projects or sort of extracurricular activities? What would you say?
Personally, I'm biased. I think extracurricular activities are the way to go. Obviously, don't fail your classes, get a decent GPA. But if it's between having a 4.0 GPA and no engagement in your community and no extracurriculars, or having a 3.5, 3.2 GPA, even it doesn't have to be super high. But having all these things behind you, like, oh, I was able to organize these events, I was able to lead these teams. Because a lot of times the questions in the interview that they ask you is, what was a time where you failed? What was a time where you had to problem solve? And if you don't have those experiences, it's hard to kind of come up with a question. I feel like, oh, well, I was problem solving in my class when, I had this project. Well, it's not as good as compared to oh, well, I was founding the hackathon in UBC Okanagan, and we had an issue with, the food. It doesn't have to be tech related. It's we had an issue with the delivery of food, at 1 a.m. because we're doing 1 a.m. food for people who are still awake. So being able to, congregate with my team, figure out what needs to happen and acting on it, at least personally, it feels like a way better answer than being able to just maybe have a little bit more related technical answer, but not the core of it. So I'm a big believer in extracurriculars. Get involved. Nothing is better than showing that you like being involved in your own community. If you isolate yourself and being, just working on your grades, you miss out on quite a bit. There's communities of all sorts all around you all the time. Doing some sort of volunteering on the weekends, or any sort of thing that just helps you get connected with people around you is, I think, an extreme benefit, not only for your network or personal growth, but just your mindset in general. Being so aware of interacting with other humans, interacting with other people, solving problems with other people is just extremely, extremely beneficial. For people applying to FAANG, obviously, good grades is good. I'd argue that projects are a little bit more important. Being able to show that not only do you know how to code, but you know how to, come up with your own ideas, and go through the software development lifecycle of, just kind of ideation to architecture to planning and this and that, blah, 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 into having a finished product and being able to show that you did that yourself, or even better, with a team. I mean, to show that you're able to collaborate with people it's just green flags are around. I've met a lot of people who are great coders and great engineers, better than I am, but just lack in that area where their communication, their engagement seems to be just not be the best. And you'd be surprised how many people coming out of university and they can reverse a linked list, but they don't know much kind of the depths of other stuff. Or a lot of people are not eager to at least to learn. So Microsoft puts forward a lot what they call a growth mindset. And a lot of people do. It's a pretty good thing to have in mind. But one thing that I've learned is to learn how to learn. If you know 4 or 5 languages coming out of university, I can bet that you're gonna need to learn 3, 4 more in your professional life. You're gonna need to learn new frameworks. You're gonna need to learn new stacks. You're gonna learn different kind of problems, that come with working with an actual product rather than, a project, so learning, being not being afraid to learn, not being afraid to like dip your toes into a new project and starting from scratch. Like I remember in the summer after first year of university, I was bored, I was looking for an internship. And I did this in like a week or so, 2 weeks. I did this crappy little kind of program on Java, using 2D graphics. It was kind of supposed to be like some sort of like kind of simulation thing where like little circles can go and eat food and like multiply. And but I learned a lot doing that. I did a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of dumb things. If I look at that code now, I'm like, wow, like I was an idiot doing things a certain way. But it was still a lot of fun, and you learn tons of things, and you find issues, and you go online, you find the solution, and you build on it. And just being able to show through like that process is just extremely beneficial. I feel more so than just a good grade. A good grade can only tell so much.
What's your top 3 favorite frameworks?
Well, mostly right now I work with just .NET using WinUp SDK, which is a really powerful framework. When I first graduated, I learned React, and I was going into like using Next.js and Node.js, which is super cool technologies. And I'm a big fan of React because I thought I was going to go into more web dev because that's where like a lot of the jobs were. I ended up joining a team that works with native code, so it's just a lot of C#, C++. So I'd say like those two like would be the places where I like the most. Just working with just not the biggest fan of pure JavaScript, but TypeScript and using React and networks are pretty. I think it's just a great framework to learn. Again, web dev is a huge area of tech right now, so might as well get used to it. And yeah, if you're looking for native stuff, then yeah, I think .NET is just kind of not a no-brainer, but it's just does pretty much everything you want it to do. Especially now with WinUp SDK, which is a bit of a newer framework. It just has a lot of access to just your machine without that many kind of barriers. So you're able to be a little bit careful with what you do when working with that framework, but it just allows you to just really interface deeply with your machine. And just have a quicker and better programs.
Earlier, I remember I asked you about like the startup experience in Mexico and sort of the life here. Just to touch back on that real quick, like how is the life in Mexico per se? Like how do they go about sort of building a project, and how is it different than maybe more like Northern American style, which is United States and Canada?
It's hard to say because I don't have the biggest experience in Mexico. Although I lived there and I grew up there, I did my university here, and most of my work experiences have been here. I did do an internship back in Mexico between my second and third year. It was a small point of sale company who did like software for laundromats and software for restaurants and some hotels. And then the startup again, we didn't get too far into it before I left. So it was basically just a lot of just coming up with ideas and potential for the products, and just working with a designer to kind of bring the product forward. We were getting ready for a first round of investment of pre-seeding. But in my internship, that one was an interesting company because, again, it was a small company. I'd say maybe like 20 people between sales and engineers and stuff. It was founded by some people who have been coding since the 70s. There's a lot of like senior people. But the issue there is that at least Mexico and probably a lot of world third countries, and surprisingly quite a few systems in North America and Europe are old. They banking, medical systems, government systems that were made in the 80s, haven't been modernized that much. A lot of code that's still in COBOL, a lot of code is still in Pascal, a lot of code who's still, these old languages. So in this internship that I did, the code base was in Pascal, which is an old language that died in the 90s. Most of its use was in the 80s. But it's the code that these guys knew, it's the code that they have experience with. So when they created this company, I think like 5 or 7 years before I joined for that internship, it was just a group of guys who were like, we know how to use Pascal, we know how to create a product, so let's just make this product and sell it. And then, whenever a new guy comes in, they're like, all right, let me see a code base, and it's Pascal. You're like, oh crap, what the hell is this? You know, they gave me a week or two to learn Pascal, to just like a base degree. ChatGPT wasn't a thing back then, so you couldn't just ask Copilot or Cursor to help you out. So it was very much just reading docs and tutorials. There were some websites that on the bottom it said last updated 2001 that I had to rely on, which kind of sucked. But it was kind of fun. It was, again, it's this idea of like, learning how to learn and being eager to grow your own kind of repertoire of skills. So I worked in this small project for 3 months where they helped me out a little bit. I was on my own, but they did guide me, here and there. But I was like setting up this. I think it was just making like networks, like making the server code for using Java to interface with the app, which is in Pascal. So you have to use like what's called the Java native something to be able to talk between Pascal, and then you have to use like a certain library in Pascal again that hasn't been updated in decades. It was this, and part of it had to be like using web text, so you had to use like I was doing some like using Bootstrap for UI and JavaScript for some of the functionality, and talking that to the Java server, and then the Java server to the Pascal stuff, and it was just a mess. But it was just a lot of learning and just reading, spending hours on Stack Overflow and messing around, trial and error, and just kind of figuring it out. So it was a small company with old technology, which is kind of different because like most small companies now have new technology because they're able to pivot a lot quicker. So it was an interesting place to be. It was fun, learned a lot. People were cool, just a good experience. But yeah, very, very different than Microsoft, I'd say.
What challenges you?
I think sometimes like a lot of like the bigger kind of picture stuff is a little bit challenging to like really get my mind around it. Whenever you have your big task, it's you obviously have to like split into smaller and smaller tasks. But just kind of facing one of those big tasks, be like, oh, this is gonna take me a month or to do, can be a little bit kind of challenging in that sense. At least in my professional life. But with proper help and just kind of time, you're able to cut that down to like just having one humongous task, just having smaller ones. Definitely, whenever you're put into something new, growing into your career, you need to do new stuff all the time to be able to grow and in your professional career. So sometimes when you're just put out in the water, sometimes I'm putting in I have to lead a meeting that I've never led before. And talk to people I haven't met before who are, asking a lot of questions. So definitely when you're just kind of doing something for the first time is I think one of my main challenges. But it's the best place to grow, the best place to learn, and if people are cool, they kind of help you out and give you a little bit of slack if they know it's your first time. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of the main challenge that I see in my professional life.
What motivates you?
I think being able to work in my professional life, just being able to work in a cool product. It's a product that is used by millions and millions and millions of people. Whenever I write a line of code, it's going to be installed in millions and millions of machines. So it's pretty cool to think that's being installed in every country in the world, used by any sort of people, from toddlers who double click an image because they did, or, on older people and government people and non-government, it's just such a wide product used by so many people. Anybody who I talk to has opened a JPEG on Windows, everybody has, right? So it's cool to be able to do that. So just, it's a cool product. The people who I work with are super cool as well, extremely helpful, extremely knowledgeable. Some of the smartest people I've met in my life, or I can call coworkers, which is such a cool thing to be able to do. Some people have worked in the industry for, again, 10, 20, 30 years. So being able to hear their stories and be like, oh, like back when this was going on, or they talk about the dot-com boom, or they talk about the Y2K issues. It's kind of like really cool to be a part of, hear first-hand experiences of these kind of mythical events that, as a comp sci major, you would hear. I was born in 98, but so I don't really remember Y2K. I hear about it. I understand what happened and why it happened, but being able to hear it from guys who were fixing Y2K code and how people were like panicking, like as close as the date was, and kind of this kind of weird place, or people that worked in .com startups in the 2001, 2002, when, the .com boom was going on, is just super cool to be being part of a cool product, being around cool people, just learning to do cool stuff. It's pretty nice.
You mentioned some stats. I'm actually curious. What are some interesting and cool stats that Microsoft has as a company?
Oh, that's brutal. That's a large question. I mean, at least from a product, I know that I'm not able to say exact stats. Just that it's a large product used by tons and tons of people. Trying to think of just some Microsoft stats. I mean, it's 50 years old, and with that, the amount of areas where Microsoft is present, they're present in the cloud, and they're present in, personal computing and, enterprise stuff and gaming, and just the amount of how huge it is just mind boggling. They really diversify their portfolio quite nicely. So it's kind of cool, just being able to go around and like see all the Microsoft products and be like, oh, I know a guy in that team, or I know a guy in this team. So I think that'll be fun. But yeah, as a like just straight up stats, I it's kind of hard to really kind of come up with some just out of nowhere.
I'll probably just put some stats here.
Yeah.
Pop-ups. And lastly, what do you think is the meaning of life?
I mean, it's like a cheap answer, just happiness, man. Just enjoy what you do. If you're unhappy where you are, then why are you doing it? A lot of people put themselves in a lot of pressure to kind of reach these goals that other people put on themselves. But, it's you only get one life. It's a big world. Tons of cool things are happening nowadays, with AI, with robotics, with, anything, every industry is just right now we're in this kind of beginning this era of change, with AI and robotics and quantum computing, and fusion is now getting better, and who knows what's going to happen in the next few years, so I think the meaning of life is just kind of enjoy the ride. We're privileged enough to be in what I believe the coolest era of human history, where I'm able to work with people from all over the world, which is such a cool thing. I could be having lunch with my coworker who's from Canadian and an American, and someone from India, and someone from Korea, and someone from China, and myself from Mexico, and someone from Colombia, and someone from Brazil, and someone from Germany and Poland, and just be able to collaborate with so many people shows how privileged of a time it is. 100 years ago, people were so separated, cultures were separated, and I think it's just so awesome to be able to have this worldly experience through just my day to day. Even in just the most mundane things, and playing ping pong, it could be myself and someone from England, and someone from Canada, and someone from, South Africa, and just being able to just enjoy life with such a diverse group of people is I think a thing that gets often overlooked. It just shows just what an amazing point of human history we're at right now. So enjoy it. No need to lose years through just unhappiness or not moving around or not taking risks. So yeah, just kind of do what you're passionate about. Work with your community. There's always so many cool people out there you can meet. Some people who are passionate about things that you're passionate about. You just need to put yourself out there to be a part of it. And sometimes I'm a yes man to a fault, but just saying yes to people can bring so much goodness to your life. Like I got involved, like I said, one of the first things that in your first question that I didn't really answer is like, what was one pivotal moment of my career was saying yes for one of the bigger things, which is after my first year of university, there was this Latin American student organization that I went to some of the events, met a few of the people, some of the leaders of the. I think it was the first year the club was founded. So in the summer, I was doing some summer courses to get ready to make it a little easier coming into second year. Just randomly leaving campus, I saw who back then was the leader of the student organization, so the Latin American student organization, and she was like, "Hey, like I've seen you in some events. You seem pretty cool. Like we're looking for people to join the team. Like, would you be interested?" And I was like, "I never thought about it, but yeah, I'd be down. Like, why not? Like, sure." I don't know how much time this is gonna do or what it really entails, but yeah, why not? Like I'm open to the experience. And sure enough, that kind of blossomed into me being extremely passionate about that community and helping people and just seeing it grow and doing bigger events and doing bigger impact. was just such an awesome experience to do. And if I didn't say yes to her that one day, then who knows where I'd be right now? Because through that, the people who I met through there opened me up to the founding of the hackathon, of the BC Hacks Hackathon, and the Computer Science Course Union, and student government, and then all that led into my job at Microsoft. Like, it's just kind of builds up just by saying one yes. It could do such a massive impact in your life that I just don't know where I'd be if I had said no that one time.
Danielle, it's fantastic speaking to you.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
You too. Well, you have me as a connection on LinkedIn. I'll be eager to see what you do in the next coming years. And congratulations on your graduation.
Amazing. Thanks, bro. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.